sea.
All right, plenty of stuff to go on already. So the first thing we know is it's a cassette tape recording. In other Backrooms videos and games, cassette tape recordings have been part of the breadcrumb trail. Someone leaves when they're in the Backrooms. The person who's narrating had a home, a manor, so they're obviously quite wealthy, because obviously a manor is quite large. Presumably they live by the ocean as well, so it's even more expensive. The pan that we're seeing, the shot that we're seeing here is panning to someone who's missing that we know died in the back rooms. So what I'm thinking is that the person who's narrating is someone who had someone that they knew or loved, like a son, went missing. They eventually found out that that person wound up in the back rooms, and they've used their means to try and find that person in the back rooms and eventually got there. And the interesting thing is, narration says, I had a home once, a manor. So they've lost that home or lost access to that home. So maybe the amount of resources they expended to find that person who went missing made them lose all of their wealth. And so that's why they no longer have that manor anymore. So anyway, I'll continue.
Upon the world was a vestige, crawling forward onto strangled ears.
Vestige I can't comment on. The strangled ears might be people they tried to tell about their theory about where their loved one went missing to. So they figured out their loved one went missing. Eventual place was the back rooms. They tried to tell people about this big conspiracy about how there's this extra dimension that exists, and yeah, nothing happened. So that's the strangled ears. People deliberately tried to not listen.
But when skies turned dark, the house was taken by the sea.
Okay, the house being taken by the sea, this could be figurative or literal. I don't know. Like, my theory is that obviously they lost their house because they probably spent a lot of money to try and find out where their loved one wound up. But the house being taken by the sea could mean a meme that was on Twitter a couple of months ago where a house literally got taken by the sea. So it was kind of a house that was on stilts, and the sea came in and swept it away. Things getting swept away by the sea is obviously a recurring dream people have. And it's also, I remember hearing a story once of someone who'd never seen the sea before. And because they'd never seen the sea before, they didn't know how it worked. So when they first saw the sea, they thought the sea would sort of engulf them and drag them out. But in this case, the home got dragged away by the sea. So the sea could be a literal image based on that meme, or it could be sort of a figuratively based on this world that this person has gotten caught up in, and they've just been engulfed by it and swept away by it.
A pillar truncated.
Yeah, pillar truncated is probably the house was on stilts, and when the water came in, it hid some of the pillar, so it looked like the pillar was truncated.
Cast down to the seabed with all the other forgotten things.
Yeah, that reminds me of fishing in Minecraft for some reason. I don't know why. The whole cast down to the seabed. This image is clearly something has happened in that boardroom. So my theory is that this person who had money, that figured out that someone they cared about was in the back rooms, and they eventually figured out they could access the back rooms by breaking into async and probably using the threshold. So we know that from traditional science fiction and TV series like Stranger Things, that when someone from the outside tries to break in to sort of gain access to the facility or do something, they can mess up the security protocols that are in place, or mess up sort of the way the operations usually run. So what potentially happens is this person figured out they could get to the backrooms via async. They broke in, they messed something up. Now, when they messed something up, something went wrong, and a smiler got through the threshold, or a howler, or whatever you want, and it got into one of the backrooms, one of the boardrooms down the hall, caused some sort of commotion. A chair got kicked over, and that's what we're seeing here. This also reminds me of the beginning scene of Severance, because you're looking down on sort of an office desk in a boardroom. But yeah, it's not a strong Severance reference, but it's there. The next scene's definitely a Severance reference. I'll show you.
But I remember.
This is one of my favourite pieces of Kane Pixels art ever. You can see the vaulted ceiling from Severance. You've got that kaleidoscope effect where they're chopping out the two different frames. It looks like a pit, so you can slip off the edge there. And yeah, those servers. I mean, I've seen servers like that in the 90s and 80s. You wouldn't back then. You wouldn't have gone to the difficulty of decorating them like that with the stripe on them. That would just be too expensive back then. But the interesting thing is the floor. This image, the view from the camera is sort of further down to the floor, which kind of infers that there's something even more beneath the floor. And that's actually the case. So in old server rooms like this, the panels used to have a gap underneath them so that the cables from the servers could run underneath. You could run, all the cables and things underneath the panels. That's just a nice touch. It might be coincidental, I don't know.
Fleeting shells, sinking ever slowly, folding downwards into themselves.
Yeah, so that's probably a top-down view of async, and I like that part of the poem about the things in the sky. I think sounds cool.
Forever tearing along the seams of the sky.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Forever tearing along the seams of the sky. That's brilliant. I love that. And this is, of course, the prototype device that teleported something into the backrooms, presumably.
Until nothing remains except the eternal ghost. And you ask yourself.
Yeah, so this set of images here is someone wearing a hazmat suit, and they're on a mission. So if you look at the way it's walking and the perspective, I know that this is from the thumbnails on the other channel, and I know that the hazmat suits are, of course, part of the lore, but because of presumably the viruses or whatever bacteria that's in the back rooms. But this kind of, if you look at this image, it looks like they're on a mission walking down a hallway. So I'm thinking maybe this person who lost someone they love, who's found their way into the back rooms via async, put on a hazmat suit, and they're on a mission to try and find something. Or find that person. Yeah, it's a cool image.
Could there ever be anything greater than this?
So could there ever be anything greater than this? This kind of infers, like, part of the lore of the backrooms is that, the earlier lore is that one of the ways to escape the backrooms is to consider it your home. And of course, the earlier lore of the backrooms was that it disrupts your memory. So the longer you're there, the more crazier it drives you, or the more memory you lose. So this kind of alludes to that process happening. So maybe they found themselves in the backrooms. They've lost part of their memory, and they've discovered something new about themselves, and they've made the backrooms their home. I don't know.
You have always been here.
Yeah, so the "you have always been here" I think also alludes to the earlier lore and videos from 2 or 3 years ago. This is also an interesting coincidence, I think. But there's a movie called The Shining with Jack Nicholson, and in that movie, I don't want to spoil it for you, but right at the end of the film, they show a black and white photo that implies that Jack Nicholson has always been at the Overlook Hotel, even though in the movie he's presented as someone that basically goes crazy once he lives there for a couple of months. And yeah, towards the end of this video, there's a black and white photo saying you've always been here. And yeah, I just think that's an interesting coincidence. But no, it's a brilliant video. I think personally we're looking at a Stranger Things type. We're looking at something that's alluding to a Stranger Things type scenario happening. And yeah, there's a lot of parallels between Backrooms and Stranger Things, or maybe parallels between Stranger Things and Backrooms, because I think Backrooms was prior to Stranger Things, partly, I think. But yeah, no, shady government agencies, extra-dimensional portals, creatures, facilities, can't get any better than this. I can't wait to see where this is going. Thanks, guys.